Hi guys, welcome back to another Hugh Jeffreys video. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at a lot of broken Apple MacBooks and iPads weighing in at 26.2 kilos. I'll be testing the devices I have purchased and assessing whether they can be repaired. I paid a total of $370 US for the lot, which is around 560 Australian dollars. If you've been following me on Instagram, you've probably already seen a sneak peek of a few of these devices. Starting things off, I'll need to unpack all of the devices. Shout out to John from Roadkill Incorporated for hooking me up with these MacBooks and iPads. John buys hundreds of MacBooks from recyclers in various states from working to completely destroyed. He then attempts to repair as many as he can and prepare them for resale. Like me, John supports right to repair and does his best to keep devices out of landfill. In fact, he turns many of the devices that can't be repaired into glitch art. If you're interested in what John and his company is doing, check out his YouTube and other links down below. After removing the bubble wrap, we can begin pulling things out. First is two bunches of 30-pin cables. These look like they're off a commercial iPad charging rack, so should be of high quality. Next is a first generation AirPort Express, which if you're unaware is like a router device. There is also a whole heap of keyboard covers. These don't really interest me too much, but there was one in just about every color. Next up is an Apple Mac Mini. This appears to be one of the earlier models, and it does have a slight bit of damage to the DVI connector. Next to come out is an Apple II floppy drive. There's then a whole bunch of iPads before we can get the main attraction out of the box, which of course is a huge stack of Apple laptops. Pulling that out of the box, we can place them down on the table and unwrap them so we can see everything we got. It's good to see that John has very well wrapped these for their journey across the world from the United States all the way to me here in Australia. There is a wide variety of Apple laptops in here, from vintage PowerBooks, first generation MacBook Air, to devices like the Retina MacBook Pro. Of course, MacBooks weren't the only thing included in this lot. There's also various iPads, one of which was already turned on. These iPads range from the iPad 2 up to the iPad Air. With all the bubble wrap removed, we can take a look at all the devices as a whole. I received 8 Apple laptops, 5 iPads, and 1 desktop, as well as a few accessories, like John's Roadkill Incorporated stickers. It's now time to test out what we got. Starting with this MacBook Pro, this is the largest Mac laptop ever made, with a huge screen size of 43 centimeters, or 17 inches for you Americans. Starting it up, you can see it suffers a GPU fault which prevents it from booting into an OS for the majority of the time. However, I did get it to boot into macOS 10.8 Mountain Lion. As any professional laptop should, it has a wide variety of ports, including 3 USB Type-A, but if that's not enough, it also has an express card slot so you can add extra ports if you need. No dongles needed with this MacBook. After some trial and error, I got it to boot into Mountain Lion, and you can see the battery has a whopping 1,715 charge cycles, although it's still scoring about 79% health. I had the fans running at full speed to try and cool down the computer as much as possible, as these machines tended to run quite hot. Apple said that this AMD GPU in this 2011 model can produce stunning visuals. So seeing this is a laptop geared towards video editors, I decided to fire up iMovie as I didn't have Final Cut Pro installed. There we can take full advantage of the AMD graphics. It appears I pushed it a little too hard with iMovie as it freaked out and went black. After closing the lid and reopening the display, it lit right back up, however it was unresponsive and began beeping. So as any true IT professional would do, I turned it off and on again. This time around, we see some visual artifacts on the display, indicating a GPU fault. These unibody MacBook Pros with dedicated graphics from around 2008 to 2012 suffer from major GPU failures. I believe this is caused by a poor heat pipe design and inadequate fan speeds, resulting in the computer running too hot. In most cases, the GPU chip's solder joints become unattached due to excessive heat. A lot of people attempt to repair this by baking the logic board in an oven or using a heat gun to reconnect the chip. A lot of times, this only proves a temporary fix. However, disabling the dedicated graphics removes the problem entirely. Moving along to our second laptop, this is a Retina MacBook Pro. Plugging in the charger and pressing the power button, the device sprung into life. However, its internal display is entirely shattered and destroyed. With a huge impact to the middle of the display and various parts of the display panel peeling away from the computer, this MacBook has seen better days. Even the Apple logo on the back is cracked and pushed inside the MacBook itself. Although it suffered all of this damage on the outside, it still seems to be functioning on the inside. So we need to test this MacBook out further and see if it actually is still working. Plugging in a HDMI cable, I turned the MacBook back on, but unfortunately, nothing appeared on the monitor. So I needed to open up the MacBook to diagnose it further. Removing the several pentalobe screws from the bottom of the laptop, we can remove the bottom panel. Taking it off, we get our first look inside the MacBook. Well, this is honestly truly shocking. Half the battery is missing, various cables aren't plugged in, and there appears to be a snapped off connector on the logic board. Not to mention, the reason the HDMI output isn't functioning is because the interconnect cable connecting the logic board to the ports on the right hand side isn't even connected. This time, I'll use a mini DisplayPort to HDMI adapter and plug it into the left side of the laptop, which is attached to the logic board. Connecting up the charger once again, this time around we saw an output from the laptop. I had it connected via USB to a hard drive running macOS 10.8 Mountain Lion. You can see this is an early 2013 machine with 8 gigs of RAM. While needing a lot of repair, this laptop should prove a fun restoration project. Our next device has to be the most abused and saddest looking laptop I've ever come across. Its trackpad and display glass is smashed beyond recognition. The lid has major dents, with the hinges loose and barely attached. The palm rest has also been hit with something, and even the keyboard is warped. This damage appears to be out of rage and from various attacks. I say this as the spacebar key has been broken into 2 pieces and taped back together at some point. And if you're wondering what this laptop looks like on the inside, well, I was curious too. So removing the Phillips screws, we can remove the back panel and see that it actually doesn't look too bad. Although the fan is stuck and it has no RAM, it appears to mostly be there. So installing some RAM, I'm going to test it out and see if it turns on. Connecting up a display output and a hard drive, I could press the power button, the fans immediately ramped up to 100%, and the display somewhat lit up. I got no output to an external monitor, so this MacBook is going to need some further investigation at some point. I hope to be able to restore it, but for now, we're going to put it aside. Our next device is a MacBook Air. This particular model is the first generation, released all the way back in 2008. It's in pretty good shape, although someone's clearly been inside it and not reinstalled the bottom case correctly. Whether you like it or not, this MacBook Air pioneered the future of Mac computers. With one USB port, no DVD drive, non-upgradable RAM, and a slim design, this is pretty close to what Apple is releasing today. The few ports it has are quite hard to access, and the first generation MagSafe charger doesn't actually connect properly, so you need to have the laptop propped up at an angle. I did reinstall macOS 10.7 Lion back onto the hard drive inside. I had to clone an external disk as the internet recovery no longer works for some strange reason. I should also mention the battery inside this laptop isn't functioning, so that will need to be replaced. I will open the laptop to fix up the bottom case that isn't aligned correctly. Although while I'm in here, I'm going to take a look around at its internals. You'll notice that this thing is rocking an iPod Classic hard drive, which is the same 80GB capacity. If I'm reading that label correctly, the MacBook Air has an 8MB cache on that drive compared to the iPod's 2MB. How does that mean for performance? Well, this thing is painfully slow even for 2008 standards. I ran a benchmark on the hard drive and it scored a ridiculous 21MB a second. In comparison, my 2010 Mac Pro with upgraded NVMe drives scores a whopping 2,850MB a second, It may even be quicker to run this computer off of the USB port. With one of the screw threads stripped, I wasn't able to get one of the screws reinstalled. Taking a break from the laptops, I'm going to move across to the iPads I received. Unfortunately, all these iPads are activation locked, which means they're only good for parts. This is because they've come from various workplaces and such where employees have left their logins on the devices. This is a huge issue affecting Apple products and results in millions of working devices being destroyed. We can move on to our next laptop. This is the largest Apple PowerBook laptop ever made. And compared to the smallest one they produced, you can see just how huge this laptop is. And of course, this one is actually, for the most part, working. In fact, it can even run off of battery power. And going into about this Mac, we can see this is the original 2003 machine with a 1 GHz PowerPC G4. And that battery I was talking about only has 90 charge cycles. The only issue with this laptop is the sound. It's a shame that the sound on this PowerBook doesn't work, as the device overall is an excellent addition to my collection, and I will be keeping it around and hopefully I can figure out what is going on with that sound. It is time for another PowerBook. This one is from 2000 and looks significantly different from the PowerBook G4s. It is in a pretty rough and dirty condition, although I can't wait to restore this up in another video. It is missing a key and the DVD-ROM drive cover, but it does overall still function. The battery doesn't work, so it needs to be connected to power constantly, and that display has a real reddish tint to it, which seems to get a little bit better as the device is powered up. You can see this Mac is still running macOS 9.2 and has 128 megabytes of RAM. In fact, this has to be one of the coolest Apple laptops I've ever seen, as the keyboard can easily be removed to reveal the hard drive, RAM, and AirPort card. There are also 2 levers at the front, which can remove the DVD-ROM drive and the battery. What's epic about this is you can add 2 batteries, or you can replace the DVD drive with a floppy drive. The second last laptop we're going to be taking a look at is this 2009 Unibody MacBook Pro. This is packing a 2.8 GHz Intel Core 2 Duo as per the sticky note and 4 gigs of RAM. At first, I wasn't able to get this Mac to turn on. At a closer inspection, the battery pins were bent and shorted out. So using a pair of tweezers, I was able to straighten those out and reconnect the battery. Although the issues for this laptop didn't stop there, I actually had major difficulty getting this computer to turn on. I found that holding the power button and then connecting the MagSafe charger allowed the computer to turn on. After that had been done, as long as it was connected to the charger, it would turn on normally. However, while it was lighting up and detecting a hard drive, on boot, it would infinitely load until it randomly shut off. I believe this is yet again another GPU issue. I did remove the logic board to take a look at it. I couldn't find any damage, although we could get a good look at that heatsink design. Now, I'm no engineer, but that graphics chip on the end looks a little too far away from those heatsink fins and fans to be adequately cooled. Our last machine for this video is another Retina MacBook Pro. This is completely dead, and although I did get it to briefly show it was charging, it doesn't turn on and is catastrophically damaged beyond repair. The screen is cracked, the frame is bent, the logic board has damaged components all over it, and I only wanted this laptop to use a couple of donor components on my identical model MacBook. Luckily, the small little components I'm wanting for the audio amplifier are still good on this donor machine. So there's not a whole lot I can do with this other than salvage a couple of board components. 3 products I've yet to test is the Mac Mini, Airport Express, and Apple II floppy drive, as I don't yet have the equipment to do so. So this is it. My new pile of various broken Apple laptops. These will make excellent restoration videos. Let me know down in the comments what you are looking forward to see being restored back into a functional state. I would like to once again thank John for hooking me up with these devices to help bring some more MacBook restoration videos to the channel. And on that note, this has been a Hugh Jeffreys video. If you like what you saw, hit that subscribe button and consider checking out the Tech Lot playlist for more videos just like this one. And if you're looking for some helpful tips or what tools I use to repair devices, be sure to check out my website, link for which is down in the description. That's all for this video, and I'll catch you guys next time.